Let me start this tutorial with two questions about NgRx. What is it and when we should use it in our project? NgRx is a state management library. It's provided for Angular app, and it follows the Redux pattern. For those who do not know what is Redux pattern, I would suggest to search about it because it's like a fundamental thing about the NgRx architecture. But let's continue with talking about NgRx definition. NgRx provides a centralized way for managing the state in the application. But what it means? Actually, it provides a global or shared data to the project. When you need to that data, you can easily access to it in your components. So without any concern about, okay, I have this data in my component, and if I want to have it in other component, I have to fetch fetch the data from the network or API. You can easily access to the previously fetched data in your project. Let me put it this way. Imagine you have two pages, products page and categories page. You navigate to products page because you want to see the list of products, okay? Obviously, you send a request to the API for fetching your products. And then you decide head to a categories page. Obviously, again, you send a new request for fetching the categories list, okay? What would happen if you navigate to the product list page again? With the traditional approach, you will fetch the list of products from the API side again. And if you want to do that every time, you have to send a new request to the API side, and it would definitely affect on your user experiences, which is so much bad, okay? But with NgRx or in the main state management library, you can manage this type of state easily in your project. On the other hand, if you need it with a list of products in other page, like let's say you have a showcase page, and in the showcase page you want to add some of your products or your list of your products, okay? So with the traditional approach, you have to fetch the list of products when you head to that page, okay? But if you have state in your project, you can simply send a request to your state and fetch the previously loaded or fetched request or let's say list of products into your showcase page simply. So because of these reasons, we encourage to use state management library in the Angular project, okay? Obviously, there are a bunch of competitors for NgRx in the Angular community, but believe me, NgRx is the best possible option for you if you want to have state management library in your project, okay? Talking about theories is enough, and it's time to jump into the coding about NgRx. Alright guys, I prepared the project for you. I implemented the concepts of NgRx in it. I want to show you what I did in this project, and I am sure that you will understand the idea behind NgRx with this project. Okay, let's jump into the code. Okay, the first thing for working with NgRx is installing the required packages. There are multiple packages when you want to work with NgRx, but the essential ones are NgRx effects and NgRx store that I installed here. There is another package which is store.devtools that I will describe later on. So let's focus on store and effects. With the store package, we're going to manage our store. And so it's supposed to um, keep the shared data and its related uh, stuff. And with the effects package, we're going to manage the effects, actions, and this type of stuff. If you are wondering what are these subjects, actions, effects, hold on a minute. I will describe them all. Okay, so we installed the required packages as the first step. The second step would be defining the store itself. Okay, but what is a store? Actually, a store is the place that you are telling to NgRx, okay, I want to have these data, and this is my data information. Okay, you are supposed to describe the fields that you have for your store. Okay, imagine you have a user store, and in user store you want to keep or uh, store list of users or selected user, and this type of information. Okay, so that's it. Um, let's check out this user folder which I provided for you. For the user folder, I defined a module, and there are two main folders here which are data access and feature. Let's start with features folder. In the features folder, I created two components, which are list component and single component. In single component, I'm gonna show the details of a user, and in the list component, obviously, I'm gonna list my users. Okay, that's it. And in the data access folder, there are two folders, which are services and the store. In the services folder, I just created the service, which is user service. And in this service, I have two API call. As you can see, I'm sending a request to request.in, which is a website that creates some fake REST responses. Um, in the get list of user, I'm trying to fetch the list of user. But there is a parameter here which is hard coded. I don't want to make it dynamic. Just keep it simple, okay? And there's another method here which is get single user. I'm gonna fetch the details of a user with this service, and as you can see, this one is dynamic. Okay, so far so good. So up to now we have a simple Angular project. If you develop a traditional project like this, okay, there would be some components and service and some HTTP calls, and that's it. Um, but it wouldn't be enough for us if we want to implement the NgRx. There will be another part in our project, which is store. In the store, we're going to manage all the stuff related to NgRx. And like I said before, we will start this work with defining the store itself. Okay, so let me open up this store folder and select this user.store. Okay, here I have a class which is user feature state. Okay, I know there are other stuff like this, and please don't focus on the other parts. Let me comment them out. Okay, there's no need to focus on them, so just focus on this part. Um, in this part, I defined a class which is user feature state. In the user feature state, which is the user store. Okay, I'm gonna define some of the properties that are required for storing the information related to user. Like I said before, I'm gonna save or store list of users, and the selected user and the status and error. But what are these status and error? Imagine I'm trying to fetch the list of users. Okay, the initial step, I'm going to load them. Okay, and when um, I receive the response from the API side, I will have two um, response. Okay, um, maybe I successfully received the response, so the status would be success, and maybe I receive an error from the API side. So the status of this stage would be error. And there's another field here, which is error. And if it's used for sending the error that received on API side. Okay. So, so far we defined our state. Okay. And we know that which information gonna need for um, user feature in our project. Now it's time to define which actions should be happened in the project in order to update the data store. But let's explain the actions concept first. Actually, actions are nothing but just some events or comments that you are dispatching or issuing from a component. Okay, let's assume you want to load the list of users in your project. You need somehow a nonce to store, or let's say NgRx. I need the list of users. Okay, so you need to do an action, or you need to announce somehow that I need these type of data in my component. And here, actions will come to the rescue, and they're a kind of module that you can use in this case. So let me show you user.actions.ts file. Or the scenario that you want to fetch the list of users, you need to define an action like this. Okay. And if you want to define an action, it's simple as define calling the create action from NgRx store and pass a string like this to it. Okay. This string includes a true part. But the first part is this bracket, which represents the scope or domain of this action. Well, let's suppose you have an action for product feature. So this user word would be replaced with product. Okay? In the main, it refers to the scope, domain, or page, or even component that's calling this action. Okay, I personally use my module name here because it represents the domain that I have, and that's it. Let's talk about the last part, and it's nothing but just a description about what this action gonna do. Okay, that's it. But there are some other actions that maybe you wonder why we have them. As you can see, this is load list of users success, and the other one is load list users failure. It's almost similar to the first one, right? But why we have declared them here? Okay, let's imagine we shared this action. Okay, and if we receive the result from API side, um, we need to either announce to NgRx that what is our result, okay? So with the load list of user failure, we can say, okay, we I'm gonna say this, we dispatch the load list of users, and after that we called an API, but we failed. Okay, so we will issue this action. But if we successfully receive the response from the API side, we will dispatch this action. Okay, that's it. And consequently, this will be happen for other actions like load single user data. As you can see, there is an action here called load single user data that obviously used for fetching a specific user information. And there are two similar actions here that are using for handling successful or failure operations. That's it. And then the other thing that I have to cover about action is passing arguments to them. Okay, if you want to pass an argument to an action, you can use props like this. Okay, for instance, if I want to fetch the user data dynamically, I need user data, user ID, right? So I will pass it like this, and um, I will read the user ID data when I need it. That's it. So far, so good. So up to now, we understand what is store and what are the actions. What would be the next step? Obviously, the next step would be dispatching the actions. Okay, let me show you something. Um, let's go to the list.component.ts. Okay, here I want to dispatch an action. Okay, load list of the users. If I want to dispatch this, um, firstly I need to inject the store in the constructor and call the dispatch action like this. In the dispatch method, I should pass my action like this. Pay attention, it has empty parentheses here. Okay? So if you had any argument for this action, you have to pass it here. Okay? Like what we have in the single component. As you can see, load single user data has user ID properties, right? Let me show you again. A load single user data has a property which is user ID. So if I want to dispatch it, I have to pass user ID. And if I want to do that, I should do something like this. Okay, so when you dispatch this action, NgRx will notify that, okay, there is an action and I have to do something. Okay, since we need to grab this data from the API side, we need another part of the NgRx, which is effects. Okay, effects are nothing but some side effect handlers. Okay, but what it means, imagine you want to do some database operations or API calls or whatever. Okay, you need to handle these type of operations in the effects. We are going to call the API, so we need to have an effect, right? Let me show you user effects. Here is my effect. I define this effect for loading list of users. Let's examine what we have here. Okay, this is a class, okay, right? User feature effects. This is a class and it has a constructor. I put it in the bottom of this class, and I did it because NgRx documentation would do it. So I tried to follow. And in the constructor, I injected some classes. Okay, the first one is a store, which is obviously point to the global store of the project. And then the second one is actions. Okay, and the last but not least is user service. Okay, I think so far we have uh, declared everything, and it's time to talk about the load list of users effect itself. Okay, as you can see, we have used create effect, okay, which accept a function. In this function, we use actions, and with these actions, which is an observable, we are going to use pipe operator. In the pipe operator, firstly, we are filtering the actions are happening in the project. Okay, so we are telling to NgRx when load list of users dispatch, you need to do something. Okay, when these actions happen, we are going to call the API. Okay, which is this API. Let me describe this part in the next step. Okay, and just focus on this part. So we are receiving the actions here and filtering them, and then returning the results of API. I'm calling the get list of users here, and then when I got receive the response of this API, I am dispatching this action. Okay, the error part is empty, but you can simply use user action dot load list of users failure and manage the errors. Okay, so course like that, and if you have kind of side effects like this, you have to use ethics in your project. Okay, but let me describe this part. What is this part? Okay, before describing this part, I need to tell you one another concept of NgRx, which is selector. Selectors are nothing but just some simple method that grab a piece of state data. Okay, let me show you the selector that I defined for the user module. As you can see here, there's a user state, okay, that I created based on the user feature state of here. Okay, let me comment this. Okay, so this user state hold all data that we have in our feature state. So list, user status, error, and everything you define in your feature state will be available in this state. Okay, and you can grab a portion of that in your selector. As you can see, for creating a selector, you only need to call create selector function here and pass the feature state to it and grab a portion of that. Okay, is this simple? I think so. So this is the selector. Okay, well, let's back to our effects and describe the rest of this effect. As you can see, there is another operator which is with latest from. With latest from comes from NgRx operators library. Okay, and I'm passing the select user release to this operator. Okay, and after that, I'm calling switch map. In the switch map, I will have access to um, the list of users, action, and the data that returns from this select. Okay, so if I receive any data from this select, it means I already fetch the list of users, and there is no need to fetch it again. Okay, so I have it and I return it. There's no need to call the API again. That's it. So if it's like a cache mechanism in our effect, so far so good, and we covered all the concepts of NgRx except the main part, which is reducer. Okay, let me uncomment this and describe to you what is reducers. Okay, reducers are nothing but just some pure functions that accept the initial value of your state and a function. Okay, with that function, they are supposed to modify your state somehow. Let me show you with an example. Um, okay, here I have created user feature reducer. In the user feature reducer, we're passing initial state, and there are some um, other parts which refers to some listeners. Okay, with on operator, you are listening to the actions that are happening in your project. If load list of user actions dispatch in your project, you're going to modify your state like this. Okay, actually, you're telling I want to keep my state like before, except updating my status. Okay, so when you call the API, you will change the status of your state to loading until you received that data, and you gotta change it to other thing. That would be success or error. Okay. If you take a look at these two um, parts, you can easily understand that if load list of user success happen, how you want to change or modify your state. Okay, so if you receive this action, it means you want to assign the response to the list of users. So if you dispatch these, okay, load list of user success, and as the data that you receive from API, it comes here and update the list of user. Okay, and if you fail in this API, okay, you will come here and update the state like this. Status would be error, and error object as a value. And consequently, this would happen for other actions. Okay? When you are starting an operation, it would change the status of the state to loading. And when the result came back from the API side, depends on being successful or failure, you will update the state like this. Okay? So, these are the core concepts of NgRx and how you should implement them for a specific feature of your project. But as a last step, I would show you how you should register it in your project. Okay, there are various uh, workarounds for registering NgRx stores in your project, but I have an approach that I think is better than the others' approach, and it is maintainable because if you add another features like products, showcase, I don't know, whatever, it would be easy to maintain it. Okay, let me show you what I have here. I have um, app effects array, which I'm adding each effects that I have in the project. So if I add product feature, I simply add product feature effects here. Or if I had a statistic feature, I would simply add a statistic feature effects here. And definitely it will happen for the reducer. Okay? User feature reducer will uh, actually this is an object that will keep the list of reducers of the project here. And the most important part is this module, which is core module. Okay, in the core module, I registered the core module, and in the core module, I defined my app, my reducers. Okay, which are these. Since I have only one feature reducer, I only added here. But if I had others, simply I could add them here. And the next part is FX module. I registered my FX here. And the last but not least, this is the stored tools module. With the for DevTools module, we can monitor the uh, stored data in the browser. Okay, I would show you how this part is working. So you can register the store in your project like this. I think it was super simple, and theory is enough. And it's time to check our project. Okay, let's see what we have in the list components. Okay, we have an observable, which is equal to get list of users. Okay, and we have another observable, which comes from a source select. And in the single component, we have something like this. We are checking the root, and from root, we are grabbing the user ID and calling the get single user. Okay, so this is the traditional approach, right? Let's see what we have in the browser. I would open the developer tools and then check the Liswork tab. Okay, let's refresh page and then filter the record. Okay, you can see that we have called these users API, right? And if I go to the details page, there's another API call. If I back to users page, there's another API call. And then if I want to go to this card again, I'm calling the API. So API calls are happening again and again for the same data. It is not good. So let's change the other approach, which is NgRx approach. Okay. Here, Okay, as you can see, there's one API call. If I go to this details page, I'll link on it, right back. There's no API call, okay? But go here, go back. There's no extra API call. But let me show you why this is happening like this. I already tried to describe this flow to you, but I want to describe it again. Okay, let me refresh the page. Okay, as you can see, there is an array for actions. Okay, that comes from this operator and this. Okay, so there would be an array with two arguments. Okay, the first one is the action, and the second one is null. Okay, so there is no previously fetched data, so I'm directly calling the API up here. Okay, so fetch the data. Here, if I press the details button, please names in here. Okay. But if I click on the back users list, okay, you can see the actions taken from your hence data. So it means I've already fetch the list of users. So I am just returning the previous data. And if I go to the detail, you'll have thing that list of users. So that's it. And as a last thing that I want to tell you, if you want to monitor your store entities, you have to install Redux extension on your browser. As you can see, there is a feature user here, and there's a list of actions that is passed from multiple components. Okay, you can see the last status of this state here. Okay, user, data, status, error, list, etc. So this is a tools that you need when you want to monitor or debug your store, and it is super useful. Okay, guys, in this video, I try to cover the core concepts of NgRx and show you how you should implement NgRx in your project. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like it, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.